Hey everyone, in this video we're going to look at a FastAPI web app version of the knowledge distillation video, which I just most recently posted. It's this one right here. If you'd like to visit it and take a look, but it works exactly the same. You enter a topic that you'd like to explore. Let's say gravitational waves. We can select the number of sentences here. It defaults to 3. Then you click on generate sentences and we will query GPT-4 Omni to generate these sentences. And then we can expand upon any one of the sentences or we can delete any sentence. Let's say, let's explore that they were first detected by the Light Observatory and you just expand on that. And the new 3 sentences are added right underneath that we clicked on. Gravitational waves travels at the speed of light. We can expand this one as well. And also, like I said, we can delete it. Let's go ahead and delete this one or this one. And then at any point, you can actually generate an article. And an article based on these sentences will be generated and displayed to you. You can also generate a markdown and it will also be displayed. And everything that is taking place in this web UI that's not going to win any design awards are also taking place in the background in our script. For example, these were the sentences that were generated, and here is the article about the sentences combined into one, and here is the markdown file, which we can view with a markdown preview. This is how it looks like. So you can actually expand on sentences as much as you like or delete any that you don't care for. Let's try for one more topic. Let's go for object-oriented programming in Python, for example. So you can actually use this to explore different topics and maybe try to learn more about it. Here it says that features include inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation. Let's expand on these and learn more about it. Here we go. It actually explains inheritance, polymorphism, and encapsulation in separate sentences. Maybe we like to learn more about polymorphism. We can extend it. And at the end, let's say we want to generate a markdown of this, and we shall receive our markdown shortly. Here we go. Just like that. And we can, again, view this markdown document.md with a markdown viewer. And there it is. Code files for this project is available at my Patreon at the architect level only, and also do check out the knowledge distillation video too that runs at the terminal. But let's begin by reviewing the code. Let's start by index.html. Actually, let's start by how we are actually running this app. It's a FastAPI app, and we are serving it with the Unicorn server. The script is set up so that you can actually directly run the Python file and it will start the Unicorn server. And once it's started, you can copy and paste this URL or control click on it and it'll take you to the web address where you can interact with your web application. But another way of running this is by typing unicorn main on the main:app -- reload. So main is the name of our FastAPI file, which here in this case main.py. App is the name of the app which we have defined in our FastAPI app right here in line 8 and -- reload so that if we change anything about this main.py file, the server will restart itself. But you can run it like this. It'll be just the same, but you can also run it by directly by running the script from your IDE. But we did say that we will start by looking at index.html. I will here bring it up on the side so we can see the elements plus the HTML components to them. I would like to take a moment to talk about the benefits of becoming a patron. As some of you may know, in the last year and a half, I've spent 3,000 hours, over 300 projects as a patron. You will have access to all the code files so you can get inspiration and iterate quickly. Another benefit is that you'll have access to all my courses. And my most recent and most proud one, the 1000x Masterclass, teaching what I've learned on how to code fast and efficiently. Also the Streamlit course and the FastAPI course. In my Patreon, I also have tiers in which you can connect with me one-on-one. Check those out as well. We are using Tailwind CSS for our styles for this. This is just a standard HTML file. Here we have some CSS style defined for the spinner, which we get to see when we generate sentences or generate article or expand upon sentences. This is the body, which includes the knowledge distillation, title. And then here is our label for enter a topic with the input box. This is the number of sentences, which defaults to a value of 3. You can change that. You can also change it right here or directly enter it yourself. I wouldn't recommend putting too high of a number, but it's really up to you. Here is our spinner div, which we are going to activate with a JavaScript. This is our button for generate sentences with the ID generate button. Sentence container, which is going to be injected with sentences. And this is the generate article and generate markdown button. And our script is in the static folder. By the way, the way this project is organized is that templates hold our HTML and static file hold our JavaScript file. And our JavaScript is quite elaborate, but essentially what it does is when the generate button is clicked, then it makes a fetch call to generate sentences endpoint at our main.py FastAPI app. You can see these endpoints here, app.get. This is the main page denoted with just a slash. Then we serve the index.html here, right? And we have an endpoint to generate sentences, which is going to generate our sentences using JSON mode and return it. And we return those sentences and JavaScript is going to process it. When we click on expand next to those sentences, then we're going to be hitting the expand sentence endpoint, which is going to make another call to the API and expand upon that sentence. And we same with generate article and also generate markdown. So our JavaScript does that. For example, when we generate sentences, it receives it and then it calls the render sentences and hide spinner function. Same with we do show the spinner in the beginning of this event listener. When the generate button is clicked, we do this at every time, and then we call the hide spinner function. So we receive the data and then call the appropriate function for each function. So this is the same for the generate markdown, generate article, generate sentences, and expand. Here, the render sentences just gets each of the sentences and creates a new element for it under the appropriate element, the sentence container. It appends it to them. And expand buttons does the same. It makes a fetch request to expand sentence endpoint and receives it, and then calls the render sentences. Delete button just deletes the elements, and display content actually shows it at the bottom of our HTML, where we can actually see an empty container right here. For the main server part of our application is our FastAPI application. So this index.html displays the UI to the user, and when the buttons are clicked, JavaScript makes a fetch request to the backend to the appropriate endpoint that we have specified, and each one of those endpoints, as we're going to see, actually trigger the desired behavior. But we do have all of our imports. We do have to define our FastAPI app as an app, and then we mount our static folder. Static folder is going to include, in this case, our script.js. But if we add CSS files, it would go in here as well. And we do define our template directory as well. Templates usually include HTML elements such as components, which we serve from the backend to the front end. And we have our function, stream GPT-4 response, which just makes a generic call. It takes in a system message user prompt and decides if we're going to stream the response or not. This makes the call with JSON mode, and streaming is always set to true. But when we are processing the streaming here, looping over and appending each of the chunks to an empty assistant response string, if we have set the stream parameter of this function true, then only then we are printing it to the terminal. But at the end of the day, when we have all our chunks and as our assistant response is complete, we just JSON loaded, JSON.loads it. Since we are using JSON mode, it's going to be a JSON object. JSON.loads converts it to a dictionary and returns it. Our first endpoint, that is slash, uses an HTML response class and just serves the index.html using template response. This is our main page. And as you can see, we have the generate sentences endpoint, which gets triggered when we enter a topic and click on this sentence, generate sentences. And then what happens is that we get the data from the front end, which is going to include the topic. And then we get end sentences, which is provided to us by this number of sentences. And we have a system message. You can watch the other video or pause the video, but essentially this is instructing GPT-4o to return detailed and truthful sentences about this topic that is specified. And then we generate a user prompt based on the end sentences and the topic, and then we just simply call GPT-4 response with those parameters and get our sentences, and then we immediately save it as JSON.sentences so we can see them here. Actually, if we were to do it like this, with a nice indent, or then it'll actually look nicer next time. But at the end of the day, this endpoint is going to return the response, return sentences, and once it does that, the JavaScript is going to pick it up. If we look at this, generate sentences, sends the topic and end sentences to the backend, to our FastAPI endpoint, and then it awaits the response, and when it receives the response, it calls the render sentences function, which then looks at each sentence and then displays them as a div, a stylized div, in the sentence container, which we have specified in our index.html empty container right here in line 47. So the same process is true for expand sentence endpoint. We await the data, we get the selected index of the sentence that were selected, get the sentences, do some appropriate indexing of them, and specify a new system message, which is going to return sentences. Then we craft a system prompt. We say that, okay, this is the existing sentences which we have, and we want to generate n many new sentences, elaborating or expanding upon the sentence that was selected right here. And then we get a new sentence by calling that function, GPT-4 response, and then we get it and make sure that our indexing is correct, and then write it. We should put indent for here as well. Overwrite the sentences.json so we can update it. So you always have access to these, and then just return the sentences. Then again, I'm not going to go over it again, but then JavaScript is going to pick it up and process it and render the sentences. Same again is true for generate article. Okay, we then get the article, and in this case, we actually open an article.txt file at the end and save it paragraph by paragraph. Sometimes it doesn't return some nice paragraphs, but most of the time it does. So we have our article. Then we return that article so we can display it here under this div. Same with generate markdown. Just that system message specifies that we are instructing GPT to return markdown. Here we save it into a document.md, and the last part is just that if you run this main.py file from the file itself, then it can run the unicorn server, so you can play around with the web app. So this is it. I hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, the code files for this will be available at my Patreon, and I'll see you in the next video. I would like to take a moment to talk about the benefits of becoming a patron. As some of you may know, in the last year and a half, I've spent 3,000 hours, over 300 projects as a patron. You will have access to all the code files so you can get inspiration and iterate quickly. Another benefit is that you'll have access to all my courses. And my most recent and most proud one, the 1000x Masterclass, teaching what I've learned on how to code fast and efficiently. Also the Streamlit course and the FastAPI course. In my Patreon, I also have tiers in which you can connect with me one-on-one. Check those out as well.